Hello, 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 hello. Do I hear some sound? Hello, 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 hello. Yes, there is sound. There is also a video. Sorry. I just ate something. It's a little bit late, so I just had my dinner. And for whatever reason, I have the same problem as my father. So when I eat something, after I eat something, I need to cough a little bit. There is some, I don't know, some slime coming up from my lungs and then it goes away. And I have that for many years already. My father also has that. He's over 60 now. So doesn't seem to be too dangerous. Seems like I don't die from it, but it's also not normal. But whatever. I don't know where it's coming from and what you can do. So I just have to live with that. A little side story before we begin today with the platforming stuff. I worked a little bit on Flex yesterday because there was an issue raised by someone and we are going to answer him. I closed his issue already because he did not respond for a couple of days, but he did today. And basically what he did, so he had a question. He has some misunderstanding that I'm going to explain now and also answer here, but might be interesting for some of you. So that's why I want to handle it on stream. And what he did was something like this. So he had a component, this health component, and in there he had a hook. So when this component gets added to a specific entity, he was checking, does this entity have a health bar component? And if no, then he's going to add the health bar component to it. And with that, he had something like this. So in world entity where he's creating a new entity, he's adding this health component here, which then triggers this hook, which then triggers that piece of code here. So basically he had a nested world.entity, and then inside there he had an entity.configure call. The first one is creating an entity, and at the end of it, it notifies then all the families that you have in your world, and the families are then checking, is this entity part of me or not? And then, for example, in the iterating systems, then if the entity is part of the family, we simply iterate over it. And in addition, there is another function in Flex, which is called entity.configure, where you can modify the current components that an entity has. And this is also a method for performance optimization reasons, because in here you could theoretically modify or remove and add multiple components at once. And the family notification, which is then doing all the checking if the entity is part of it or not, is only happening once at the end when all your configuration is done. Otherwise, if we would add and remove a component, we would need to check all the families all the time if the entity is still part of it or not. And that is a quite expensive operation in an entity component system. So that's why I wanted to reduce it to just one check, and that's why this method here is inside. But now he gets a very interesting behavior because he gets the family. So he had a family hook somewhere as well. I think it's this one here below. And this add notification or this add hook of the family got called twice. Obviously, because once for the world.entity and once because he had this configure call in here. And after the configuration call, the family gets notified if the entity is part of it. And at the end of world.entity, it also gets notified, which made sense to me. He also understood that, so he explained that here a little bit, that it makes sense. But he asked if that should be even the case. So for him, it looked like more like a bug. He also mentioned that in an earlier version of Flex, he did not have this problem. Here I have to mention that the early versions of Flex had actually obviously some bugs in it. That's why we have new versions. And one of the bugs was, I think, that families did not get correctly updated all the time under special conditions. And one of these conditions is this nested calling here, which actually you should not do or try to avoid, because it does not make sense that you have world.entity, and inside here you have another configuration call. That does not make sense. So ideally you have this line here simply below here where you create your entity. But there are always many reasons and different scenarios out there, and people try to come up with certain things and solutions, and they try something out. And in the end, he had this problem here that he got notified twice. And I worked on that yesterday and made a little optimization to the library now. And now this should not happen anymore. And hopefully I also did not break anything with that. So now if you have nested behavior like this, so world.entity and inside you have entity configure, then the notification is just triggered once at the end of the world.entity call. And also if you have entity configure calls in a nested way, because he would have the same thing here. So if he has here configuration, he adds a health component. That again will trigger the component hook and make this one. So he has entity.configure. So 2 times he would have the same problem, also 2 notifications. And here I also optimized it now that it's only get called once. And that did not seem to have a big performance impact. I need to test it nowadays with my notebook because my PC is basically too fast. It's too modern hardware, and I don't know the normal timings that I have when I compare Flex against Ashley or Artemis. And that's why I use my laptop for that, my notebook, because there I have the numbers somewhere written down in some comments, and also for the Flex behavior, what was the time back then. And then I compare, whenever I do some changes, I can compare it to the previous state. And that little change did not have any impact. The problem that I get now more and more with this library is that when I created Flex, that was in a galaxy far, far away, a long, long time ago. No, but to be honest, it was, when was the first release of Flex? It was in, I have 3 pages of releases. So the first ever release of Flex was in November 2021. That was like 2 years ago, a little bit more. And also the more recent versions, let's take version 2.0, even that one was September 2022. So that was all 1.5 years ago, something like that. And since I don't work on this library on a daily basis, because in my opinion it's almost feature complete. From what I know, I cannot come up with anything that is still missing in the library, and that's why I don't work on it a lot anymore. And digging into the code and especially understanding why I did certain things in the library is really, really difficult. And also why the code, in my opinion, is well maintained. So Flex does not have a lot of files. It has a world file for the world class, obviously, and world configuration, a system file for all the system-related stuffs, family for the family-related stuffs, entity for entity-related things, and component for components. So it's not a lot of files that I usually need to check, and also not a lot of code, but there are, of course, always special things inside. And nowadays, it's really, I cannot remember everything that I did at some point. And yeah, so it's a little bit hard to bring something into the library and hopefully not break something. Because, of course, Flex has a lot of tests. But the tests, I'm honest here, they are a literal mess. So I have a lot of different files. When I worked on version 2, I basically wanted to have a special syntax for the library, so I just created a test file, a test-driven development file. I called it like that. There I've written down the syntax that I wanted to have, and then I adapted Flex accordingly that I could make the syntax compile and work. And then I just have sometimes some random other files which include certain tests. And for example, when we check out the world test file, that one has, I think, over 1,000 lines. And also it's not written in a very nice way. So yesterday I used one of the components which were existing, like this word test component, but that actually is verifying certain things inside its hook. For whatever reason, I cannot remember anymore why I did it like that. There were reasons, obviously. Luckily, there's another component which does not have this hook, so I could simply use this one. But what I want to say is that it's not so easy anymore to add certain things or fix certain things in Flex, because it takes me quite some time to dig into the details and also into the thought process that I had back then. I still try to work on it, but please, when you raise an issue, keep in mind that since too limited time, it's not so easy for me to fix something or add something. But I try my best. And also, I always answer very quickly, usually. So usually, I would say within a day, you get an answer from me. And the perfect world would be that you yourself simply create a pull request and I just review it. For that, I always have time. If I need to fix things myself, then it could take some time, or maybe in the future it will not happen anymore. I'm not 100% sure. So anyway, let's quickly answer him, because he had one misunderstanding and I want to explain it as well. So sorry I did not reply. Why do you think it should not get called after configure? So here I had a question, because to me it sounds like he mentioned that when he calls entity configure, he did not expect that that the family hook gets called. And to me, that does not make sense at all, because obviously when I'm changing the components of an entity, then also it will get removed from certain families or gets added to certain families. And this configuration can happen at any time. So that can happen after the entity got created. So of course, we need to notify the families here. But he mentions here, I thought the main purpose of families was to be notified when an entity with a specific set of components was removed or created in the world. And this is not exactly true. Of course, that's one of the use cases of a family, but the main purpose is that it contains or remembers or stores the entities with a specific component configuration internally, so that we can, in an iterating system, iterate over it. So that's the main reason for the family. So here I need to answer him, and then he will try out the pull request, and that's it. But let's answer here. So how can I make an answer with a quote? Is it like this? Okay, and then let's remove all of that. Can I make that bigger? Yes, I can. So tests, now the top one is commented. Yes, okay. So this is not entirely correct. The purpose of a family is to store entities of a specific component configuration internally in order for us to iterate over those entities, for example, inside an iterating system. Since entity.configure is manipulating the components of an entity, it also must notify families about it, because after the configuration is done, the entity can be part of new families and also can be removed from families where it currently is inside. That sounds a little bit weird, but that's it. So we definitely need both notifications for families, one notification when an entity gets created, and another notification whenever the components of an entity get changed. Anyway, the new snapshot version should reduce the amount of notifications always to 1, which should help in your case. But as mentioned above, I'd vote for the extension methods that I showed above, which makes it easier to follow your code and also removes the duplicated notifications. Okay, so what I suggested to him, because ideally you don't have nested things like like the entity function and then inside the configuration or the nested configuration, as mentioned, because of this double notification. Also, what I found, or I personally would not do, is that it's a little bit weird that when I add a health component to an entity, that automatically it gets the health bar component in that specific scenario added to it because it's part of the component hook. That one I would simply find a little bit weird, that after that line of code, if I debug my entity, then it suddenly has 3 components instead of 2, although my code here just adds 2 of them. So that's why I suggested to him to rewrite that and do something similar like we do in the platformer. And there he just creates a new function like configure health, for example, and inside he simply adds both of these components. That would be the better solution in my opinion. Okay, then today, obviously, since it's already quite late, it's 8, and I will go to sleep in about 2 hours. So that's why we will split up day 9 into, isn't day 9 an esports professional team? Or at least it was, no, it's Cloud 9, not day 9, Cloud 9. So we will split up day 9 and basically this optimized jumping stuff that needs a little bit of think process and might be a little bit tricky. So we will do that on Friday, most likely, where we have the next stream. And today we will do simple stuff. So first of all, I hope at least it's simple. So first of all, we will get rid of the free type font stuff and make it a bitmap font. And hopefully that allows us to run our TeaVM backend again so that we can run our platformer in the browser again. And the second thing, if we still have time, would be that when the player gets in contact with this map boundary at the bottom that we created last time, that we kill him and respawn him at the original spawn location. And with that, I just want to mention one last thing. So I did a little bit of refactoring again between this stream and the last stream. And what I did was to get rid of some to-dos. So we had a to-do for animation creation and animation change, I think. Let me quickly open up the Git history. Somewhere we had a file, if you might remember it. Yeah, this Flex utility file where we could call entity animation. And that one got the animation system. And then it called from that system a specific method, which was necessary since the system contains the animation cache and also some logic to create a LibGDX animation and things like that. And I had 2 problems with this approach. The first one was that we always need to access here the system and get it out of our world. Which is basically looping through all the different systems and then getting the correct one. This one I also had a look at yesterday. And what was very interesting to me, looping through the array of systems and finding the correct one with the type was a lot faster than making a hash map or a map in general with the key of the class of the system and the value is the system itself. So that might be a little bit confusing what I'm just saying. let me go to one of the Scratch files. So currently, or basic, when you normally have a map, like let's call it system map, is a mutable map of, and then K class of an iterating system, for example, and the value would be an iterating system. Seems like we don't have that here. So let's say K class of, I don't know, doesn't make sense, any. Let's just use any for now, and the value would be any. And with that approach, or with that way, we could then say, if we have a specific object, so like a system, which is, I don't know, system A, and then from that map, we could simply read it with system, the class. So we just need the type of the system. Sorry, it's like this system A.class, and we would get back then the instance of the system. And normally, what you learn in the internet and also most likely in some computer science classes is that a hash map is a perfect fit for such lookups because the lookup time is O.1 or, yeah, I think it's O.1 and is the fastest way to do it. And what we currently do in Flex, that actually there is no systems map, so it's just systems, and it's an array of any, it's not any, it's an array of system, and then we simply have a loop like this and a check. So if system 1 is our type that we want to have, then return the system, and otherwise I think throw an exception. And this was one of the concerns that I had with that line here, that could be a little bit time consuming, that it always needs to loop through all the systems to find the animation system. And I wanted to, here I mentioned that I wanted to optimize that to directly get that. But at least on my notebook, I did some performance tests and it was very interesting. I created a lot of systems. I think in total it was 50 or something, or 40 systems, which is about the number, or way above the number of systems that I usually have. And there, this approach to look up a specific system took 7 to 8 milliseconds. And the approach with the map, here I also tried different implementations, a hash map, a tree map, a linked hash map. I think those 3 were the ones that I tried. And this lookup here, that one took usually 30 to 32 milliseconds. So it was a lot slower. Yeah, it's actually a lot slower. It's still in the milliseconds area, so it's quite fast, but still it's a lot slower compared to iterating over the array. And I could imagine that, first of all, K class or this class stuff is always a little bit slow because I think there is some reflection maybe involved in the background, or at least some processing when it needs to create this class and get all the information that you might need from it. So that usually takes some time. Also, the lookup in a map is always based on the hash code from what I remember. So basically, when we make a get call here, it calculates the hash code of this class and then returns the value. And while in theory that should be faster, this first approach, in reality, it simply wasn't faster for me. So that one was better. And yeah, that's why I did not change that in Flex, just to explain that. And the second problem, or the second thing that I did not like then, is that still we had this call with always this loop, but we cannot store this animation system somehow in an efficient way and simply call it. And also changing the animation is always bound a little bit to the world and so on. And I basically refactored it then in a similar way that what we did with the tiled system that we had at the beginning with the entity creation. And I created now an animation service out of it. I called it like that. And that one contains now this caching logic and has this entity animation method and so on. And now basically anywhere in our code base where we needed the immediate animation change, I basically just need access now to the service. and then call the method on it. And that made it the code, in my opinion, nicer. And one tiny little thing that got fixed by that, if I remember correctly, was in the damage system. Yes, where we played this, or we added the hurt animation, so that when our player got hit by the saw or by a rocket, that we then play this this hit animation. That was not 100% correct, because that one had a little bit of a delay. So we added here the animation component, and then a couple of steps later in the animation system, the frame of the sprites got updated. And I did not like that, so I wanted that the sprite is immediately on the correct frame. And that was one of the reasons why we even created that entity animation method from the beginning. So that little utility function here, that was the reason why we created it, because it updates the animation component and also updates the sprite animation directly. And now with this refactoring approach in the damage system, I just call now this entity animation method, pass in here that this is the global animation, so that it has a higher priority than the normal one, and that it plays this hit animation. And inside the animation service, let's come back to that. So this method gets called, and in here there was this tiny little piece of code here which updates the region of the sprite properly. Okay, so that was this tiny little refactoring. A lot of talking. I hope you understood everything. And other than that, there is a website that I also wanted to mention. I never used it, but it's quite interesting. It's called Shader Toy. I tried to post the link in the chat again. Not sure if that gets deleted by YouTube, but hopefully I can post links as the owner of my channel. And what Shader Toy is actually doing, so it contains a lot of test shaders from what I know from different people. You can, I think, also search for certain shaders and stuff like that somehow. I used it a long time ago. And let's just click on one of those. And what you basically get is then the code of the shader somewhere, if I remember correctly. So maybe that, I don't know, is that maybe a 3D shader? That's a little bit complicated, but at least you get some ideas and some feedback of how a shader looks like. And from what I remember, there's somewhere also a code. Here's the search. I need to accept it. Let me check once more. Browse, and then let's say, I don't know, the newest shit. And then what could be a nice shader? I don't know. Doesn't matter. This one here. And then here you see some of the code related to the shader. So this is Shader Toy. And from what I know, you can take over most of that code, but you might need minor adjustments to make it work in LibGDX. But it's, I would say, a good starting point for certain things if you want to do something. Okay, and with that, let's start the day for today. And the first thing that we are going to try is to, first of all, update here the Gradle project, that I don't forget that. Hopefully that downloads the newest version of Flex. Let me check that as well. Or do I need to? No, it does that automatically. So that is the version that I deployed yesterday. So now we should have the latest version, and I can also verify that if that version is still then working. But the more important thing is that we need to start up our skin composer and get rid of the free type font extension, which broke the browser backend. I thought so initially that it will do that, but I wasn't sure. And last time we saw that that's the problem. So let's try to fix it. And I hope it's not too difficult to fix it. So what we need access to our fonts, and we need, instead of a free type font, we need a FNT file, which should be the bitmap font. Exactly. And how does that work? Path to source font file to be read. There, I would say that would be our Masaki regular font. Then the characters. I would say we don't need all of them. So we need A to C, and 0 to 9. And in addition, we want the German Umlaute, let's call it like that. So all of these things we want to have. Maybe also exclamation mark, question mark, and the dot and the comma. That could also be interesting characters that we might need in the text. And yeah, that's it, I would say. Was there anything else? Color, I think we said we needed white, correct? In order to color it then into different colors. Because if it's black, you cannot change black to a red color or blue color, but white you can adapt to anything else. And I think that's it. Here also we will use the nearest filtering because it's a pixel graphic. Yeah, I would say so. Then let's click on target font path. Aha, okay, wait, that one is not the correct one. We want to store it under our assets folder, user interface, and in here, how's that font called? I forgot the name. Masaki regular. Okay, then let's once more. Let's go here. Assets, user interface, Masaki. Okay. And then I would say, let's do it like that and click on generate font. Please enter a name for the new font. Masaki. Enter scaling -1. Markup enabled. Yes, that means that we can modify the color for each character in our text. And here we have a little preview. I think that looks good. Then let's say okay. And now we have a bitmap font file. I would hope so. So let's go to our project. And we have now too many files. So first of all, there is an FNT file. I think, is that a normal file? Or is it a binary format? No, that's a normal file. So in here, you see all this information that I mentioned before. So now with a bitmap font, we have a graphic. So this PNG graphic, which looks like this. So it's simply a graphic that contains all our characters. Seems like one of the characters is not available. Is that the question mark? That might be the question mark. I'm not 100% sure. And basically then for every character that we have, so character has an ID, and there it says where is that character located, also the width and the height. And with that information, it can then, like similar with the texture region stuff that we had, it knows the region of a character and then can render it on the screen. So this is the information of the FNT file. And the bitmap font is always the combination. So it's this FNT file plus the PNG file for the graphic. Then we want to remove the free type font. Bye-bye. And finally, what we need in our little styles for what kind of things did we have? I think we had a text button, and there we need to select now the font. Yeah. I think that's it, right? I think we just had that, right? We had the text button. We had a button that I think we did not use. and some colors and some fonts. So that should be it. So let's try now to export the skin. Generate blah, blah, blah. And let's say export. So warnings, no valid styles. That's totally fine. And that should be it. And now coming back to our real game, what we should now be able to is that we remove this true type font or free type font, I think it was called. Then we have those two new files. And I'm actually also not sure. I think we don't need the graphic here because it should be part of the skin. Let's try something. So I will remove this file here as well. And now we need to adjust certain things. So that's a little bit trial and error. So first of all, and I think that's the most important part, important piece, we don't need the free type platform extension anymore. And also in our core project, remove the free type stuff, and also here remove the free type stuff. Two things here. I hope that's it. Yeah, that looks good. Then in our assets, we don't want to have this skin loader anymore. So that one also gets removed. And now let's reload our Gradle project and let's try to start our game. Hopefully it does not crash and everything is still working, and also hopefully looks the same as it did before. Not really. So that looked... I mean, it's working. That's the good part. But it did not look so good, right? So it was not really sharp. So the text was quite bad. It's a little bit too small, I would say. But that's an easy thing. Let's try one more thing. So some little optimizations. The good part is that it's running and working. That's the good part. But one tiny little optimization. Exception occurred. Oh my god. What was the exception? Actor button. Couldn't load file. Because I removed the PNG file. It could not load that anymore. Maybe that was stupid. Yes, because I also wanted to adjust the path where it's storing that stuff. Because there was, when you export the skin, I saw there was one of the tick boxes if it should move the font files as well. So I wanted to fix that as well. So let's see. Hopefully we did not break anything. Otherwise we just need to, I think, just create this file again. Does not have to be the correct one, I guess. But let's see. So can we load the file? Yeah, so it please resolve by clicking the associated button. Yeah, okay, so let's just pick a random graphic. I think it should not be important. I don't know, the frame graphic. Okay, apply. So that was a stupid mistake by me. Then let's go back to the font. Ah, shit. We broke it. No. No, can we fix it somehow? Let's see. It tries to load this PNG file, but I don't have it anymore. I deleted it. Maybe it's in the... It's also not in my trash bin. Ah, shit. Then let's manipulate this file here. Or let's simply restore it. I think it was not that difficult. Let's be honest, we always have a safe way back. So The only thing that we need is to roll back certain files. That's where we have version control. So we need this. Let's close also the application. We need the scene manager back. That one we don't want to restore. That one also no. That one also no. And everything else in here also roll it back. Good stuff, good stuff. And finally, now we should be able to load our scene manager file again. Yeah, perfect. And now let's do the same thing that we did before once more. So we create a font file. Then we had our which one do we actually use? I think we use this one here, right? So the TTF file of the font. Then we save it at the same location. Yes, then the characters is all the numbers. And then let's try it once more. And the German Umlaute. Okay. Then the size with 16 was a little bit too small. Let's make that a little bit bigger. Color was not black. Color needs to be white. And can we do anything else? If on, font smoothing is disabled. Maybe, I don't know. And what else? We want nearest stuff. And I think that's it. We could modify certain other things, but let's do it like that. So generate the font. That one we keep the same name. We want to have markup enabled. Now here it looks a little bit better. I think before here it also looked a little bit pixelated, right? So now the preview looks better. Then the free type font, we don't want to have it anymore. That is what we fixed. And finally the text button once more. There we need to select now the correct font. Save everything and export the project or the skin once more. And there was this copy font file to destination. So that should now hopefully bring us back the files automatically. Yes, I think that one we can remove. And the OTF, we also don't need that anymore. And now let's start up our game. Okay, now it looks better. It's sharp again. Everything looks good. Perfect. And hopefully that was enough to fix the TeaVM backend. But let's see. Since we don't use TrueType font now anymore, we should be able to run it in the browser. But I'm not 100% sure because there's also another library that we added for Scene Manager, which was the Stripe library. And I'm not sure if the Stripe library is somehow compliant with whatever Kotlin TeaVM backend requires. But let's see. We will see that in a moment. Were there already some errors? Accepted class path. Looks good. I don't know. Half of this output thing is ignored class path. Yeah, whatever. Failed to load some logging stuff from SFL4J, no one cares. Copying the different assets to a separate folder. Dependency analysis, compiling, build complete. Localhost. Haha! Ha ha ha! Cool stuff. So that is already working. Somehow you can modify the viewport. I need to check how that is working, but good, we can run our game in the browser again. There is a normal problem with the background music, so sound effects are always played properly. Music, I always have a little bit of an issue with TeaVM, but the author of the library is aware of it. At some point that might get fixed. But I think it's cool as a little tryout that you don't need to download the source or the jar file or whatever, that you can just see in the browser directly what our little project and platformer is about. And as easy as that, without changing almost anything in our code besides this true type stuff, we can run our game in the browser. Isn't that great? Yes, Simon, that is great. Now let me quickly check one more thing. So this viewport, let me check it out in... Where did I fix it correctly? Maybe in Mystic Garden? Let me see. When I run that one here, then it's centered, and that is what I want. So I want to have it centered and big. Oh God, oh God. And how did I do that? So Kotlin branch, TeaVM, maybe here I used a different approach. I'm not sure. There is the T-build configuration. Let me zoom in a little bit that you can also read that. So the T-build configuration, and there I can set a width and a height and a title. Let's see inside the TeaVM builder. So there is a T-build configuration. That's this one. And there it seems like I can set a title, which would be Quilly Jumper, width and the height. The width in our case, let's take over the values from the desktop launcher that we had. So it's 640 by 360. So 640 by 360. Then extra class path, we don't need that. That requires reflection. We don't need reflection because we are awesome. And okay. And besides that, there is also the launcher class. And there is this canvas. And there I set the canvas is width 0 and height 0. And I think that means that it extends over the entire browser page, if I remember correctly. Let me see. Yeah, so there is a predefined width and height. Let's make that 0 and 0. And now let's try it once more. And I think it should look now better. So my expectation would be that it's now extending over the entire browser size and that the game is then centered in the middle. Let's see. I think those were the two little adaptations that I need to make that work. We will also, we can actually do that. We will also adapt something on the GitHub repository that might be interesting for you, which then automatically builds our game with the TeaVM backend, and on our GitHub repository, we get then the link to run it in the browser. I hope that I can remember that, but I think that should be an easy fix. And now, as you see, it's also in the, wow, okay, we get squashed through the ground, which is also not ideal. But now in the browser, it also looks good. So whatever the size of our browser is, we have this viewport in it. And now it looks a lot better than what it did before. Okay, great stuff. That was not so difficult to fix, I would say. So everything that I thought we need to do, we did it. And it simply worked. So let's see, what did we do? We removed the free type skin loader because now we have the bitmap font. Then we removed here some dependencies for this free type stuff, which are also no longer necessary. Then the font file and stuff like that. We updated our skin manager project file. We created a new skin and made some tiny little adjustments in the TeaVM backend to make it look better. So here I would say fix TeaVM backend. I think that's it. And with that little thingy, we already fixed one of our things for today. Ta-da! Great stuff. Now, either we go to the respawning or we make it we optimize or make that already happen, that we can run we build our game for the TeaVM backend. I think that's more interesting for you. I don't have any chat contribution today. If I can trust the statistics, there are 4 viewers currently, or 3. It's 3. And maybe one of them am I'm not sure. So there would be 2 viewers, but they are not sending anything. So I think we will just do that. So let's see how I did that back then. So I remember there was a GitHub action, and also on the repository yourself, you had to enable something to make GitHub pages work. But the important part is this publish file. So we just take over this entire code and make here a new workflow. So we have the verification YAML file, and now we need the GitHub pages publish YAML file, I would say. So what does that do? Publish to GitHub pages, push to branches master, and maybe also, I think basically whatever we had here. So this is, when should it react? It should react to pushes to the master branch, not to pull requests. That's not important, just pushes. And it does not need to do anything when this file gets updated, and we manually need to be able to start this workflow. Okay, then permissions that this workflow can write, and then it's publish. And then we have the checkout action, which I think we had version 4. Yes, we can update that. Then we set up the JDK 11 with Java version 3. That one is also with Java version 4. Like this. Then let's make a little bit of new lines in between, that it's easier to understand what are the different steps. So checkout, setup of the JDK. Then we have the Gradle build action version 2. Which it looks like was not necessary. So here just validated the wrapper, and then we executed something. Here I did Gradle build action, Gradle W TeaVM. I think we will change that to whatever we had before. So we validate the wrapper, and then we execute Gradle W, and then TeaVM build. So those are those 2 steps here. And finally, we need to publish the game. GitHub pages deploy action. Let's see if there was a version update for that. GitHub. What is the version? Version 4.5, and we had version 4. Okay, so that's good. With branch, I think, and folder TeaVM build If I remember correctly, we need now a new branch which is called GitHub pages, or that one gets created automatically. I cannot remember anymore. I think it gets created automatically. And what this workflow is now doing, so when we make a change to master or manually start it, then it, first of all, it checks out our project. It sets up the JDK to version 11. Then it executes the TeaVM build command in Gradle. And then it publishes the content of the previous step to our GitHub pages branch. And I'm not sure the content of that one gets published to that folder. There I'm not 100% sure, but something like that. So in order for that to work, let's try that out. That's also now trial and error. So we have our, I don't see that here. So Quilly Jumper project. And here under settings, I quickly moved it to my second screen because I'm not sure if I'm sharing here any special secrets. I think that's fine, I would assume. So there is, I'm not 100% sure, maybe we need to look that up, but there is the Pages tab. GitHub Pages is designed to host your personal organization or project pages from a GitHub repository. I think that's it what we want. The source is deploy from a branch, and there, best for using frameworks and customizing your build process, deploy from a branch. Maybe that one. And GitHub Pages is currently disabled. Select a source below to enable GitHub Pages for that one. Yeah. I think we need here a new branch, which is called GitHub Pages. Maybe we can compare that with our other repository. Let's see. Hi, just want to say that you are awesome doing this. I'm currently a bit behind at day 5, but saw that you were live now. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Simon. Today is a little bit, not so much development. There will be a tiny little thing that we will do today still. But currently we try to create the GitHub Pages deployment on GitHub so that we can run our game in the browser without the need to download the project at all. So let me quickly check Mystic Garden settings and then Pages. And what did I have here? So deploy from branch. And there the branch was GitHub Pages. Okay, but did I create that branch myself? I thought that one was created automatically during this process. Okay, let's read the documentation quickly. In German, why is it German? Configuring or publishing source for your GitHub Pages site. Okay, about publishing sources. Blah, blah, blah. Make sure the branch you want to use as your publishing source already exists in your repository on GitHub. Navigate to your site repository. Aha, so the branch needs to exist. Yeah, then I would say we just create a new one. Call it GitHub Pages, create this branch, and now get this bad boy going. So again, Pages, then GitHub Pages, root. Yeah, that looks good. Custom domain. Did I have a custom domain? No. And that might be it. So can I save? Or maybe I don't need to save. Enforce HTTPS is here, I think, ticked. I cannot really see that. Okay, it's the same as here. I think that's the same. So I guess we have GitHub Pages now set up. No, that's the wrong project. So when I go here, I don't see a link here, but maybe because it's not deployed yet. Hello, Velvorik. Let's see. So we deploy now this add workflow to or add action to deploy GitHub Pages. Let's see. I think that should not hopefully take too long to make our game runnable in the browser. I cannot remember all the steps because that was like a year ago when I did it the last time. But I also remember that it's not super difficult to do it. What a great game. I will look at it in a moment. I want to try here out something first. So what is happening now? There are 2 workflows running. Yeah, so the verification workflow and then the deploy workflow. That's a good point. I actually want to have a chain, obviously. First, I want to have the verification, and only after that one is done, I want to deploy the actions. How does that work? Do I have a project where I did that already properly? I guess in the Flex library. Let's see. So there I have a publish workflow, and that one workflow call. Workflow call, and this publish is maybe just called out from the other file. Yes, only publish after build was successful, and this workflow is running on master branch. Needs build. Build is that job here above. That makes sense. And if the reference is master, then use the workflow file, inherit the secrets, and then run the file. Okay, that one we will also adjust, and that we have a chain. That first we have the verification, and after that we have the publishing. So which workflow is which? That one is the GitHub pages publish YAML file. So that one will take a little bit of time. And then we can check out, do you want to leave YouTube? I'm not sure, maybe. Seriously, they made a game out of that crazy dude? My birthday is 25 March 1986. What? 1986? Show me. Okay, wait. We will check that out with sound in a moment. So, but first of all, let's check this one. So publish. We have now a GitHub pages branch that looks, completely different than the main one. And I would, shouldn't there be a link here now? Why is there no link? How can I add the link to the repository pages? Your site is live. Add here. Okay, then let's go visit the site. Ta-da! Ladies and gentlemen. Okay, the link is totally garbage because when you copy and paste from Edge browser, it always adds some text to it. I guess that's actually the title, so the debug lines from the profiling. We would need to fix that as well. But doesn't matter, we can run our game now via the official GitHub link. That's cool stuff. So it wasn't that difficult. But what I'm missing, the link is not visible on the front page. It should be here. Website. Use your GitHub pages website. Is it that one? Okay. So now it's here. Great. Then releases, we don't need that. Packages and deployments. Screw all of that. We will never have that. Cool stuff. So we have now our game running in the browser on when you go to the repository. So that's the beta link for it. There you can click on it and then you can run the game in the browser. Whoa! One tiny little optimization. So we will link this verification. So we just publish after the verification workflow is done. So we will do that also in a moment. But first I want to see that crazy thing here. I guess it will be in German, so sorry for the people which cannot understand German. I will explain in a moment what that is. Let me see that.
Haben wir wieder einen.
What?
Hauptmeister. Anzeigen Hauptmeister. Hier haben wir wieder einen. Den habe ich jetzt erfasst. Sorge für Sicherheit.
Is that the original voice from the crazy guy or is it just some random voice?
Glühbirne mehr. So nicht, Freundchen. Das ist nicht richtig. Gesetz. So nicht, Freundchen. Ist Gesetz. Ich kann's ja mal demonstrieren.
Wirklich die Behinderung.
So haben wir die Behinderung verwirklicht. Auf zum nächsten Sünder. Erfasse Falschparker. So nicht, Freundchen.
Okay, I can imagine what the rest of the video is. I can imagine or could imagine that actually this will go a little bit viral in Germany, maybe Austria. I can also imagine that this game was maybe made within a week, so it's super garbage. I'm pretty sure. But because of the publicity that that guy got in the last couple of weeks, and mostly, I don't know, how much is it? I guess it's early access as always. But how much is it? How much is the fish? I don't see. Maybe if they sell that for €2 or something, thousands of people might download it. So could be something, could be something there where one guy or the guys behind that game make a lot of money the upcoming weeks. And to explain it a little bit, there is a crazy dude in Germany. Is he 18, 19, something like that. And his goal in life, so the achievement that he wants to reach before he dies, is that he makes what is Anzeige in English? Report? No. Well, let's call it Vergehen. I think that's the better word for it. And the real word. Ticket. I just know in English you say you get a ticket when you park somewhere wrongly. I don't see the correct name for that. Let's call it a ticket. So when you do something wrong, like park your car at the wrong place, or I don't know, you're not too far away from a traffic lights and all these tiny little things that no real human cares at all. That crazy guy is going through all the towns and cities in Germany, and he makes photos of all the people which are not parking their cars correctly. And what I personally find very, very crazy, there seems to be a mobile app where you can then take the photo of the car which is getting or should get a ticket, and then you can directly upload that to the mobile app, and then the people which are working behind the scenes, so police and maybe some other people who are involved, they get then a notification that someone via the app added something where someone should get a ticket. And yeah, and he makes, I don't know, I think thousands of these things in the app every month. And what I also heard, that over 90% of these things, they are not getting handled because it's just not correct and they don't have the manpower to work through all of them, and it's not worth it because it's, I don't know, like €10 if you did something wrong, a very minor thing, and it's not worth the job of a human guy or lady to work through all of his little announcements that he makes in that crazy app. But I find it very weird that we have a mobile app for that you can take photos of something that is not right and then send it to someone. That reminds me a little bit of the time that we had like 100 years ago. Luckily, I was not alive at that time, but I find it weird that things like this exist. Really, really weird. Okay, let's make... I saw that you posted another link, but I want to finish something today, so I need to hurry a little bit. And one tiny little thing that we want to optimize now is this workflow calling. So let's, how did I check that before? So in here, let's adapt our workflow. So we have the verification workflow, which has this build in it. And then let's make another thing, which we call publish, maybe. Can it be with minus? I'm not even sure. And in here, let's see. I guess that needs to be moved out once. So only publish after build. That would be up here. And this workflow is running on master branch. So needs the build. And if GitHub reference is the master, then use GitHub workflows. And then that's a different file. That's GitHub pages publish. Maybe I maybe I should just call it publish, but let's leave it like that. Secrets, we don't have any secrets. Let's remove it. And okay, that should be the first tiny little adjustment. And the second one would be, so when should our workflow run? Let's see. So there we had, instead of a push and all of that, we react on, oh, it's like this. Zip. We react on workflow dispatch, workflow call, concurrency. I don't know what that means. Maybe that this workflow cannot run in parallel to some other workflow. Not sure. Also don't run it when a cancellation is in progress. Not 100% sure. And what do we need here? Maven publish. And there seems to be a condition also as a safety at the top. So run this only if we are on the master. And anything else? No, then there's the permissions and the steps. And that's it. Interestingly, the permission is here. Here I had it up there. Whatever. Let's see. Okay. Run GitHub pages, publish only after verify is successful. Let's see if that tiny little adjustment is already what we need. This is a niche if you like to produce a blockbuster. No, but seriously, I can imagine that little game of the Anzeigen Hauptmaster, that really might sell many times the upcoming weeks. And then all the famous YouTubers, they will play it for sure, because most likely it gets them a lot of views. But I can imagine it's just interesting for, I don't know, playing it one time, maybe 2 days, that's it. But because of that, I can really imagine that it sells quite a few times and that he makes good money out of it. Or she, or the team behind that game. Okay, let's check out the actions. And it's already failing, which is quite disappointing. Invalid workflow file. GitHub workflows. Verify. YAML. Hashtag The workflow is not valid. Line 41. Error calling workflow. The workflow is requesting contents write, but is only allowed contents read. Huh? What does that mean? So sounds like it's related to the permissions. Maybe they are not correct. Or I need to set permissions on the verification workflow, but no, that does not seem like I set there something special. So I could imagine that the permissions are not properly set. Content read. Let me quickly go back. Permission content write. And the error message was the workflow is requesting content write. Yes, that's here. So we are requesting that. That makes sense. But is only allowed content read. Okay, how do I fix that? I have no idea. The token permissions are based on the GitHub app permissions model. You can refer to overview the contents permission. That link is not, at least not any longer, particularly readable. That does not help us. Assigning permissions to a job. You can use permissions to modify the default permissions granted to the GitHub token. Adding or removing access as required so that you only allow the minimum required access for more information, blah, blah, blah. You can use permissions either as a top-level key to apply to all jobs in the workflow or within specific jobs when you add the permissions key within a specific job. Ah, okay, wait, then that could be really the reason that moving this one down here, I think it was here. Was it here? Let me check. There is no permissions on the same level as runs on. Okay, so that would be here. So maybe if it's here, then this job now is just requesting the correct permission. Let's see. Move permissions to job level. Let's see if that resolves anything. It might. No, that did not solve anything. What is the problem now? Is it the same? Is requesting contents write, but is only allowed contents read. So that did not help at all. Okay, so how do we fix that? Blah, blah, blah. For each of the available scopes shown in the table below, you can assign one of the permissions, read, write, something. Blah, 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 blah. Defining access for the GitHub token scopes. You can define the access that the GitHub token will permit by specifying read, write, or none as the value of the available scopes within the permissions key. We don't have a token. You can use the following syntax to define one of read all or write all access for all of the available scopes. Okay. I think we have a different problem. GitHub action give write permission to other workflow that runs within first workflow. I don't know if we can find something like that. Or maybe we really need to adjust something in the token. Let me move that quickly again to the other page because I'm not sure what I'm leaking here again. There is something which is called, I don't know, branches? No. Rules? No. Actions? Actions. Allow all actions and reusable workflow. Workflow permissions. Read repository contents and package permissions. Workflows have read permissions in the... Okay, let me share that. There, I don't leak anything. So there's a setting. When I go to settings and then actions and general, and below here I see workflow permissions. Choose the default permissions granted to the GitHub token when running workflows in this repository. You can specify more granular permissions in the workflow using YAML. Read repository contents and packages permissions. Workflows have read permissions in the repository for the contents and packages scope only. I think we want the first one. Workflows have read and write permissions in the repository for all scopes. Maybe use that one. I'm not sure. Let's see. If we now rerun that little guy. It's running and hopefully not failing. And we can also, I think that's, to be honest, I think we are really living in a very, very cool time because you see how easy it is now to set up things like that. There's a lot of documentation. User interface is also great. So I see now there's a build process and after that there's this publish GitHub pages stuff. And all of that is for free. Of course, we are selling our souls to Microsoft. But other than that, it's free. That's really great. I love the time where I live in. And yeah, seems like this one is now running. Looks good. So build, I guess. Yeah, verifying Gradle wrapper and doing everything. So I think that should work. We leave that now in the background because I want to continue with the last thing for today, which is if the player gets in contact with the map boundary bottom, then respawn him. And remember the spawn location, destroy and recreate the body. That's the safest way for teleportation. What I mean with that is that our player has a body, a box2D body behind the scenes. And you can usually not simply move a body immediately in box2D from one location to another because that's not typical physics behavior. And since there is ground collision shapes below here, we cannot teleport through them. And one solution to solve that is that you simply destroy the body at this location and create a new one here below. That would be the approach. And we want to do that when we are falling off the cliff here, for example. Now I would be at the bottom of the map. We have there some boundary area. We can zoom out later on to check that again. And when that is happening, I simply want to respawn the player here at the beginning. So what kind of things do we need for that to solve it? So first of all, in our tiled service, we need to remember the player start location of the current map. How do we do that? I would say one easy solution would be that here we have the start location and that one is vector 2. And when we are spawning our different entities, we have them in here. And there is here below, check for player tag and remember player start location. So down here we have something like if it has entity tag player, then start location is equal to from the physics, we don't really need that, right? Then we just know from our map object the x coordinate and the y coordinate. Correct? Or let's see, where did we create the physics body? We did that here at the top. And what kind of information do we pass it here? We multiply it, of course, with the x and y here at the top, and that one was the position. Okay, so I just need the x and y here from the top, it seems. So we just need here x, y, and to rename that a little bit better, let's call that body X and body Y also at the top. And with that, we should already be able to remember the starting location of our player. Yes, perfectly. So that's already working. Ah, gameplay. Finally something I understand. I always feel stupid when watching your programming streams. Oh, believe me, when I watch other YouTube videos where people are explaining something, I also feel stupid. It's I don't know how I want to call that, but I would say maybe a talent if people are interested into programming. But I personally don't think that we programmers are any special. We are just interested in a specific topic. And then we can just, like other people are writing books, we can write other things with the language that we want to use. But I don't think it's any special, anyone who is interested in it can learn it, in my personal opinion. Okay, so we have the player start location. Then we need an event. Most likely an event. Let me think, is it really an event? I think so. When we are getting in contact with the bottom of our map. So first of all, let me quickly go to our render system. And in here, let's pick the camera zoom. What did we use last time? I think it's 10. Then we see a little bit more in our game. Wow, that's too much. Let's make it 5. Also too much. 2. Yeah, that looks better. Also, we need now to debug it a little bit better, debug our physics. We will disable the profiling. Now we don't need that anymore for the time being. Okay, so what we see here is not enough actually. Sorry for that. Let's zoom out a little bit more. Okay, that is what I want. So we see here the map boundary. Those are the red shapes that we see here. And what we want now is that when we fall down and we get in contact with that map boundary here below, then we want to move the player back to its start location. So that would be the goal. And how do we do that? I would say we do that in our physics system. There we have the begin contact stuff. And in here, I would say, let's call that is map is player map bottom collision, something like that, where we pass in the entity A, the fixture A, and fixture B. I think that's everything that we need. And then simply handle player map bottom begin contact. There is no end contact in that specific case. And we also just need the player entity. Yes, I think that's it. Then let's implement those little functions. So that would be the entity A, fixture A, and fixture B. And that returns a Boolean. I don't know why it cannot automatically fill that in. Then we have these methods somewhere. Where do we have all these is methods? Okay, here below, let's create one here. So when is a player map bottom collision happening? So first of all, the entity A has the entity tag player. Then we know it's a player. And what else do we need to know? I think the fixture is not important because since it's a begin contact event, we already know that those two fixtures are in contact. We just need to know that fixture B, what kind of user data did we give that shape? I remember we did something. It's map boundary bottom. So that's the user data. And I think that's it, right? So if the entity is a player and the fixture that it's colliding with is the map boundary bottom, then we know that the player is in contact with the map bottom. So we don't need fixture A. That's quite easy. And finally, we need to do now something. So here we want to have some logic, and that would be the player entity in here. And now let's see. Where did we have all this handle stuff? We had it here. Let's also move that to the end. Okay. And also we always need that 2 times. The other thing would be entity B and... Oh, that's actually wrong. So here fixture B and here it's entity B and fixture A. So it should be called like this. And here we pass entity B. A, B, B, A, B, C, D, da, da, da. Okay, so what I would expect now is that our game crashes when the player gets in contact with the bottom because of this to-do. I think, if I remember correctly, the to-do is a crash or an exception in Kotlin. And we get this information now that this is not implemented. Let's see. So I'm stuck. Step bro, I'm stuck. Okay, so these rockhead enemies, they would need to get optimized in the future. What? I thought. So either we are not reacting. Huh. Okay, that's interesting, but can we debug that? Another thing that I understand. It's funny how many people know this step bro I'm stuck thing nowadays. I read that so many times on YouTube comments and everything. Seems like a lot of people know about that nowadays. Okay, let's see. Where is it? Is player map bottom collision? I think we should enter this method. But we don't enter it. Why? So let's see. There is a... because entity B ignore collision between non-entity bodies. Haha! That's wrong. Because there we are actually interested in a collision. So there is... This is basically just wrong. So if entity A is 0... Ignore collisions between non-entity bodies. I think there should be an AND. So if A and B is not an entity, then skip it, but then everything below here doesn't make sense anymore. Let me think that through. So if entity A it must be end. So that one here must be an end. Then we can do it like this. So here we know both of them are null. When we are here, we know at least one of them is not null. So we can check if entity A is null. And then move this check here up. If entity A is null and is player map bottom collision, entity B must be an entity at that point or must be not null. I would say so. Then we want to have this one. Otherwise, if entity B is null and this check here, then do that one. And other than that, we have our cases from before. So obviously we have written something which the Kotlin compiler thinks is not safe. So it assumes that entity B is null. But that cannot be the case, right? Because here we check if A is null and B is null, then we return. Below here we check A is null, which means if that is true, then here B cannot be null, actually. But yeah, seems like for whatever reason he cannot know that. Or maybe I don't think through all the different scenarios. I'm not sure. So something like that. And now he still thinks that here something can be null. I want to write that here in a better way. Let's see. So we would have something like if entity is null and B is not null, then check for that. Maybe I can write it the other way around. Otherwise, oh, wait, I could imagine here something. So that would be return. That would also be return. There's nothing else to check in that special cases. But still the compiler is not happy. Then let's write it like what we had before. Then it's working again. Okay, so we have here player in contact with map bottom. Here we have the same scenario. So here we know B is not null, so we check if B is the player and fixture A is map bottom. Then here we have A is not null and check if A is the player and B is the bottom thingy. And otherwise is A is null or B is still null. In my opinion, it's a little bit redundant. I would expect here something like that, but then this below here, for whatever reason, thinks that one of these can be still null. I don't know why. So we will keep it like that. Ignore any other collision between non-entity bodies. Something like this. Okay, okay, now I think we should crash. Blah, blah. Let's see. Let's go again to the bottom of our heart. No, so the bottom of the map. And an operation is not implemented. Perfect. So this is exactly what we expected. And now what do we need to do in here? I would say the best approach, I would say, is that we have here our game event dispatcher and we dispatch a new event, which we called fire, which is, how did we call all of that stuff? So we have a new data class, which is entity damage event, player map bottom contact event. Can it be longer? It can. Player map bottom contact event. That sounds weird, but let's roll with that. And then we have here the player entity. And I think that's it. This event does not need more information, which means now we can fire that event and also give the player entity here. Perfect is a crash. In that case, yes, perfect really is a crash. Now we need, let me think. Now we need to be careful because if we would destroy the body, we would crash because we are currently in the physics update loop. And there we cannot destroy bodies. What I can try, but I think it simply will not work. Let's make a very quick and dirt implementation. So let's say here in our tiled service is player blah blah blah. And then just from the event, we get the player, we get the tiled component, not the tiled component, the physics component. And then from the body, we set the position and set it to the start location. So that would be what you might think should work, that we simply set the position to something. But I am pretty sure that this does not work. What do we have here? Map change event, else do nothing. Okay. So I think that does not work. Maybe it crashes as well. It simply does nothing. The question is, do we get even called? Let me see. Tiled service. Let's see. Yeah, so we get called. We also set the position correctly to the start location, which is 8 and 4. I think that's correct. But it simply does not work. So that was my expectation. Now, what do we do? Body set transform. Does that exist? Set transform. Okay, interesting. Let's try out this one. I also think that this does not work. So I have an idea in mind how we can still solve it. But from what I remember, in my opinion, this should also not work. But I'm happy to be wrong, because that would make things easier. It then crashes. Yeah, so I think this is now related to that when a begin contact is fired, this is during a world step call, so the physics world step. And during that, you are not allowed to modify the body, because that simply disturbs or crashes the simulation, it seems like. So we need a little bit of a delay, and I could think of like maybe simply a respawn or teleportation component. I think teleportation would be a good name for it. So we would have something like event.player, and then we configure it, and then we simply have something like teleport, and to this teleport component we pass the start location. And then we have a teleportation system, which runs maybe after the physics system, and that one moves then the bodies around. So we would have then some generic teleportation solution. I think we will try that approach. That sounds reasonable and also easy. So let's create a teleport component. Then let's call it teleportation. And that one takes a vector. Let's call it 2, which is a vector 2. And a mandatory field. So now this little piece of code is already compiling. Perfect. And finally, we need a teleportation system, which is also fairly simple. So that's an iterating system, and it iterates over all entities that have a teleport component and a physics component. Yeah, and let's see what the system is doing. So at the end, we simply remove the teleportation because it's then already done. We could, by the way, also add then like a delay to this teleportation, which is quite cool. Scotty, beam me up. Oh, I need to look the Star Trek movies again. A couple of days ago, I thought of those. Because did I see a new Star Trek TV show on Amazon Prime? Not sure. But anyway, I like the movies that got released, I don't know, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. I want to watch them again. Would be cool. And yeah, so what we are now doing, let me see, we might, or we definitely need a couple of things. So when we spawn, let me check that, when we spawn our entities in here, then this code segment here, so we have the body type, I know that. Then what else do I need? From the object fixtures, I need to get the game object. That's also easy. And with that, I can create the body like that. Yeah, so I would say this little thing here, it's not really related to tiled, but we will keep it in there. It makes it easier. So basically, we need this thing here as a function. So let's extract that and call that dynamic. Is it dynamic? No, it can be something else. Then let's call that game object body, something like that. Game object body. Okay, where we pass the coordinates where we want to create the body type, and the fixture definition, that one I want to do internally in this method as well. So it would be, let's remove that argument here. Let's have that here. So what we need would be the game object. That's a better argument. I don't like the name game object anymore, but we started with it, so we keep it. Okay, and finally here I just need to pass now the game object. Good. And this method needs to be a public one so that in our teleportation system we can now simply get access to our tiled service and inject it. And now we can do something like, we also need the physics world, which we also inject. And now we need to do something. So from our entity, we want to get the physics component and destructure it to get the body. We don't need the previous position. Then physics world, destroy body. Does the body have access to its world? It would have. Okay, so maybe we don't need the physics world. Yeah, let's try that out. Maybe that works. What we do need, I would like to have that as an attribute at least. So physics world. So we destroy the body. That's the first step. And after that, we need to create a new one. But for that, the body actually needs to be a variable because I don't want to create a new component all the time. Yeah, then let's make it a variable. That's okay. And let's save that here as well. Physics component. And finally, so physics component body is equal to tiled service, game object body. The body type is the one that we currently have. The X and Y position is from the tiled service. We did not make that public. Would be the... wait. Wrong. For that we have our... we have our teleportation component. I forgot about that. We can actually teleport to anything. So we teleport to... Whoop, what happened? Okay, I want to destructure here the target location. And 2x and 2y. And the final thing is this game object information, which is simply from entity, the tiled component, and there the game object. So to be safe, I add here the tiled component as well. And that's it, right? So let's comment that here. Teleport physics body to new location by destroying it and recreating it at the new location. There might be a different approach as well, because the body has, of course, access to its fixtures. So theoretically, we could iterate through all the fixtures and maybe reattach it to the new body. Not sure if that is possible. That way, we would not even need this method here in the tiled service. But for now, for simplicity reasons, I think that's good enough. Let's see if that works. So teleportation is done. Remove component. And the last thing would be in our game screen, where we have the different systems. And there, as mentioned, after our physics system, here we will add this teleportation system that things can teleport around. And theoretically, that should be it. And hello, Copterfish. Star Trek Lower Decks or something like that. Funny Star Trek animation series. Maybe it was that one. Cannot remember. Destroy the body, you mean workout. Oh, by the way, I'm doing a great workout. Currently, again, let me share that with you lazy people out there. Where do I see that? It's funny, the user interface on my TV, on the Samsung TV for the YouTube app, is way more intuitive than the YouTube webpage itself. Because on my TV, I have a category which is called playlists, which I don't see here anymore, or maybe I'm just blind. I don't know. And there is also the playlist that I saved from other channels. This one here. Okay. That one. Don't be lazy. Try it out. You will die. I did that already, I think 2 years ago. And currently I was motivated to doing it again. And as you can see, today I just finished day 16. And tomorrow will be day 17 and so on. So only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days left. And I know that one here, day 21, that is hell. That is really hell. I remember that from the last time when I did that. And I'm interested to see if most likely my fitness got way worse than it was 2 years ago. But hopefully not that bad. I will see in a couple of days. I got distracted. What did I want to do? Why am I on YouTube? I cannot remember anymore. I wanted to check out something with the Star Trek movies. This one. How's that one called? Star Trek. The Sexy People, or what is the correct title of that movie here? Cannot see it. Star Trek something. 2009. And I remember there was also another one, I think a year or two later, with the same actors. And maybe even one more, but that one I cannot remember. But anyway, I liked those and I want to rewatch them once more. Maybe the Star Trek fans out there are killing me again. What? How can you like those? The only true movies are the one from 1780, 90, where they didn't even have video cameras, where you just are watching the drawings of some guy who draw the Star Trek movie on 2,000 pages on white paper. Those are the only true movies that are good. Everything else is garbage. But yeah, anyway, I like those. Shame. Okay, let's see our game. I think what we have worked out should not work. It's obvious. There is no injectable with name tiled service registered. Make sure to define one. Aha. Do we maybe have a problem because the tiled service requires the world? Aha. And the world also needs that one as an injectable. So we have a circular dependency issue. Ha, that's bad. An easy solution would be that could be an extension function of the physics world. I'm not 100% sure, but I think so. Let's see. Physics world dot game object body. And then let's make that a static method, which means let's move it to our companion object stuff, which is currently a very huge object already. Down there. And that would mean we can call here physicsworld.gameObjectBody. And finally, in our teleportation system, we don't need this service at all. And we just call here physicsworld.gameObjectBody. Okay. That should now get rid of the problem that we had before. Yeah, game is starting. And ta-da! Shit. I cannot move anymore. Why can I? We got teleported correctly, but we cannot move. Why can we not move? Huh? Huh? Why can we not move? I don't get that. Physics component awake the body. Worked out too hard. That really confuses me. Do we do anything special afterwards? So when we create the game object body, that's wrong. I want to go to the tiled service and there I have the body. Ah, we also set the user data. Haha. I think that one I forgot, right? And it's easy to forget that. So one solution could be to pass the entity here as an argument. Another one would be to have a component hook, and simply whenever this component gets added, then the user data of the body gets set. I think we will do that. Then I also have an example for a component hook in that game, which is not bad to have it as a reference. So in here, we simply have another method on add. And in here, we set the user data to the entity. Oh, but that does not solve our issue. Wait, that does not help at all. Because we are not creating a component, we are just creating the body. That's not helping at all. So I would say bring the entity argument in here. And then get rid of the game object because I can read that from the entity. No, I cannot do that. Yeah, not the best solution, but it's something. So here, we have the body. We pass in here the entity. We add this argument. What? Add parameter. Yes, just do it. I don't know what it's doing. Entity from flex. And finally, so here the body position. And in here, we also need the user data, which is equal to the entity. Okay. That should be something. And now I think we should be able to move again because the body is then linked again to the entity, and that means that our player, how did we call that? Player keyboard input controller or something like that, that one can control the entity again. I am confident and I am wrong. It's still not working. Just store it in a variable and set it after recreating. By the way, why do you even need to destroy it for teleportation? Just set the position. Maybe you joined too late. Setting the position does not work. So we tried two different methods, the setting the position directly and also calling setTransform. And I was already aware of that because there are several topics or blogs on the internet that you can find that in Box2D you cannot simply teleport a body somewhere. I assume that because that's not correct physics behavior that you teleport, and if there is some obstacle in between, like in our case, there is the different collision shapes from the ground, we cannot move through the ground. So setting the position simply did nothing. And one solution that you will find in the internet is then to simply destroy the body and recreate it at another location. And that is what we are currently trying to do. But for whatever reason, the body is stuck. And you are right, it has this red outline. Why is it red? Why is it drawn in red? Because it should be either gray. I don't know if you can see that in the stream. It should be gray if it's sleeping. And like, not really purple, rose or something, if he's moving. But in our case, it's actually red. What does red? Red would mean that it's a static body, right? Let's debug that. Are we creating a static body maybe? Maybe because we destroy... wait, maybe that's the problem. We are destroying the body and then we are accessing the type. Maybe that's not good. Let's swap it around, but let's also debug it. Could be that that was the problem, but let's see. And I need to make that setup a little bit easier. So we have our physics world. We have the body type, which is a dynamic body. That's good. Then we have the physics world, where we are now destroying the old body. And we are removing the teleportation component. And now I can move again. Okay, so the problem was that we destroyed the body before we read its type. And that's why the type was, I would assume it was then static instead of dynamic. And now the game crashed. So is this a... is that the... Ah, no, the game did not crash. We just have a breakpoint. Okay. Everything is good. Ooh, relax. Relax out there. Relax. I know you were nervous, but everything is good now. So what I don't like is that shit here. That's not good. Can we optimize that? I don't like what we are doing here. What do we actually need? We just need the fixtures. We just want to have the fixtures of the old body, but linked to the new body. Right? Maybe that works. Let's see. Body, fixture list, destroy fixture. Create fixture. I would need something like a copy fixture. What is the content of a fixture? So we just pass in the fixture definition. And we set the user data to the... Okay, that sounds actually pretty simple. Okay, that sounds really simple. Let's try something. I never did that before, so this is now bleeding edge or whatever the cool kids out there call it. So we will have the list of fixtures of our current body. And what we basically want is something like we want a new body, which is also just this little code here. Let's just quick and dirt implement it now. So new body, that's the physics world dot body, and the body type is from our old body, the type, and the position would be the to where we are teleporting to. So that would be the thing that we need. User data is the entity, which is also great. And then we iterate over the old fixture. And on the new body, we create the fixture from the old fixture. Do I get here still the definition somehow? But I don't have this information here anymore. Okay, then that's already a problem. What other fixture functions do I have here? Create fixture, destroy fixture. Then, wait, we have here this one here. So then I can get from the old fixture the shape. And from the old fixture the density. Yeah. And from that one I get the user data, which is from the old fixture the user data. Something like that. Okay, and in the end, I just need here a new body. And destroy, let's call that old body. That one here is wrong. Okay, let's think that through once more. So we have the world of our old body. Then we create a new one with the same type as the old one, but at the new location. We set the user data to the entity, which is actually maybe just the user data from the old body to be safe, to copy that over. And then we iterate over all the fixtures of the old body. We create new fixtures with the same shape and density and set also the same user data. And finally, we assign this body to the physical component and we destroy the old one. So theoretically, that should work. In reality, my computer might explode, but let's see. Worked. But not... Huh? But there's something weird. There's something... Huh? There's something blocking, so I don't move... I don't move the same way as I did before, so something is not... Something is not correct. I cannot explain what it is. Huh. For that, I might need to zoom in some more to see the fixtures correctly. But it seems like the player is slightly bigger than it was before. I cannot explain why, but it feels like it. Let's remove the zoom again. And why could that be? Why don't we get the same behavior as before? That's weird, right? That's totally weird. Yeah, let's see. Let's start again. Now we are zoomed in, so we see the shapes a little bit better. So we see here... Ah, I think the sensor information is not copied over. Because here, yeah, I don't know if you see that in the stream, but that is really, I would say, pixel perfect. So that our player can move through the platforms here. That's pixel perfect. And when we respawn, yeah, I already see that. So our ground sensor is now not in contact with the ground. So the sensor information is not properly copied over. Okay. That is part of the fixture, right? So here we simply say run. Then we copy over the user data. What else? This sensor information also needs to be copied over. And I think that's it. Ah, also those things. The friction, the restitution, and was there one more? Density gets passed to the constructor, so I guess that one gets copied over. And that's it. We don't have filter data, so that one we don't need. But yeah, friction and restitution, those ones also did not get copied over. Now it should be correct. And we will extract that then to a method. Because I could imagine that is something useful, maybe also for other projects. Yes, now it's correct. So now I see that the movement behavior is the same. That's good stuff. So respawning is working. Great. Really great. Nice. Tada. Maybe we should also lose a life point when we fall down. Would say so. Yes. Okay, so let's clean up all the stuff a little bit. But in the end, we achieved everything that we wanted to achieve today. Haha. Nice. Always happy when I achieved something before I go to bed. So quickly, I would say whatever we did to the tiled service, we most likely will revert that. So start location, yes, we want that. That one here does not make sense. I think we don't need this event. Maybe, yeah, not sure. We don't play any sound effect at the moment. We just add the component to the player, and also in addition will damage him. So I think that piece here does not make sense. Let's remove that. Then everything that we had here, we will revert it because what we did was unnecessary. We have now a, in my opinion, better solution. That one is okay. Oh, I forgot to rename that. Yeah, we will do that in a moment once more. So that is X and Y. And this method, we also don't need that anymore. Okay, then coming back to the tiled service. So where we spawn the game object entities, let's rename that once more. So that is the body X and that is the body Y. And now something comes to my mind. We actually need so we store the start location, the tiled service, that makes sense. So we also need the event, that was a mistake, because somehow we need the information where we need to teleport the player to. Yeah, so let's do that in here. So if player map bottom contact, the thing that we had before. So we will configure the player, but in addition to that one, we will also damage him. Wasn't there like a damage component? How did we call, how is it called? Let me check in the damage system. We are reacting to damage taken. Okay. And how did we add that? With get or add, and then we simply edit that. Okay, so we take that code here as well. Here again, would make sense to maybe have here a method that we could call entity.damage, and it does that one here internally. And damage amount would be 1. So when you fall to the bottom, then you get one damage. Okay. And what else did we do? Let's see. So events, that one is needed and that's okay. Then physics debugging, we don't need that anymore. Everything is working. That's good. Then game model here, since we added a new event, we needed to add this one. The game screen has the teleportation system. The physics component is now a variable for the body. Because, yeah, let's make a comment here, var instead of val, because body teleportation requires recreation of body. That's the reason why we have here a variable instead of a value or a constant. Then the physics system, that one was now with this additional bottom stuff thingy, and that one is firing the event. Yeah. It's also good. Then we had the teleportation component. The teleportation system, we will clean up a little bit once more. And that's the last thing. Okay, cool. So teleportation system. And I would say, let's make that a method in here for now, which is an extension of physics body. So body dot, and then let's call it copy. I think is the typical name in Kotlin to copy something, and that one returns body again. And what is that doing? That is now doing all of that stuff here. So it gets the world. Let's call it this dot world to be sure. Then we create the new body. With this dot type. And we also would need the position. Then let's call it still copy, but copy takes over the new position, which is vector 2. Okay. Then fixed rotation, that is not true. That one we should also just take over from the old body. Oh, that's assigned to itself. Maybe we might need to be a little bit careful here with the different contexts. Yeah. So it seems like it thinks that this position is related to that body, but it isn't. Huh. So that might not work because we have here a little bit weird now. So that's Kotlin related stuff, I would say. There's first of all, we are inside the system. So this could be related to the teleportation system. It's not because we would need to write this at teleport system. Then, okay, this at copy. I was wrong. I think this at copy is the yeah. What is this at copy? Wait. This at copy is the body. Yes. Okay. Is fixed rotation. Aha, okay. So now everything is correct. And finally, it's a little bit weird here with this different scopes. Let's maybe, can we do it like this and call that original body? That's maybe a little bit easier. Then physics world, then we create the new body. We copy over all the different fixtures, and finally we want to return the new body. So that would be this copy function. And up here we can then write something as simple as old body copy to, and old body world destroy old body. So that's it. And this little function here, that might be useful in other projects. So good that we have it. Yeah, let's test it, I would say. That we did not break anything. Okay, we take damage forever, so the damage taken... the damage taken never stops. That one we need to be... we need to take care of again. But the teleportation is still working, so that one seems to be good enough. But why are we taking damage forever? So it's obviously that line here. So it, get or add. We add 1 damage to it. Ah, I remember. Do you also remember? The initial implementation that we had and the assumptions that we made are not working here. So this damage taken component, was added in the, complicated stuff, was added in the physics system, if I remember correctly, in begin context somewhere. Where is it? Here. So here, this was the end contact event where we removed the damage taken component at some point. And when there was the begin contact, we added the component. So we kept that taken component for all the time. And there was a reason for it from what I remember. And that's just how we implemented it. And that cannot be used in that specific context anymore because we are adding the damage taken again when we are in contact with the map, but we are never removing it. So that's why the player takes an endless amount of damage all the time. We could, of course, directly reduce the life. Would be one solution. But then we also would not fire the event as the player gets damaged. That's a little bit stupid now. I think for simplicity, we will just roll by just reducing the life and firing the event manually. Also playing the sound. Nah. That's not so great. That's a little bit weird. We would need to refactor that and write it a little bit differently. But at some point we need to come to an end and not everything needs to be perfect. The player does not care in the end how things are solved in the back, if they are nice or not. So let's do it like that. So we get the life component. We reduce the life by 1 to a minimum of 0. Could we add the audio service to the tiled service? I would say so. They are not linked to each other. So here we can for sure have the audio service as well. And then we are also firing the event. And this one here gets removed. And this one here can also be outside, right? So event player instead of it. And event player. Okay. So that was one thing. And where did we create the tiled service? I have it just here. Okay, in the game screen. And here we also pass the audio service to it. Okay, so now everything should be perfect. Let's dodge these guys. We took way more damage than I thought we would. But we don't take damage anymore forever. So that's a good thing. Also, the hurt animation in that specific case should not be played. I would say we just respawn here directly. But why? Ah, haha, same problem as always. We are firing the event for this player for every fixture that gets in contact with the map boundary bottom. Yeah, I remember. And we just want to do that for the feed or for the hitbox. I think maybe just once. So for sure, I did a mistake here. So we need fixture A again. And finally, and fixture A is hitbox. That should be the solution. So here we have fixture. Okay, I need to be careful now how to pass it. Entity A, fixture A. So that needs to be fixture B. And that's entity A, fixture A, fixture B. And I don't like that. I wanted the other way around, which is more intuitive to read. So first we handle entity A, then entity B, and then all the other stuff. Okay, so now I'm confident. Zack, dodged, then because we can jump indefinitely. That guy here annoys me. Wait, we make the setup easier to debug. So bye Rocket 1, Rocket 2, player, let's move him here, save, and let's go. Now it's easier to debug. Okay, we fall down, we take 1 damage. We fall down, we take 1 damage. Perfect. Oh yeah. Haha. Okay, that looks good. That really looks good now. Then we can revert here everything. Okay. And that's it for today. We did everything. So I will commit that now in a moment. So all of that is done. Then I also saw that the workflow before was working. So move permissions to job level. That now is also working with publishing and everything. Then we just changed the GitHub token permissions to something else. Then it worked. We now have the link as well on the repository that we can play the game online, which is also great stuff. And yeah, we did some minor fixes for today. So next stream will be on Friday, hopefully, where we will finalize and optimize the jumping behavior of the player. That feels a little bit better. And also that we cannot do double jumps anymore. And yeah, the goal for me would be, but not sure if that's feasible, but the goal would be that by end of this week, we are done with the main topics of the project. And then maybe next week, if there is time and motivation left, we can check out this GDX AI pathfinding stuff that someone mentioned. That we look into that as well. But yeah, looks good so far. I thank you guys for watching and for your help and support for today. And wish you a nice evening or day wherever you are. And hopefully see each other again on Friday. Bye bye.